Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes the loudest message is spoken in silence. When words lose their value and presence becomes ordinary, withdrawal becomes the most powerful answer. For 7 days, choose silence, not to punish, but to protect your dignity, your peace, and your worth. Because when you stop chasing, the other person finally starts noticing. Ignoring for 7 days is not about cruelty. It's about clarity. It forces the other person to sit with their own thoughts, to face the absence they once took for granted, and to realize the value of what they thought would always be available. When you stop reacting, you take back control. When you stop giving attention, you shift the balance of power. And when you disappear for just a week, you allow the other person to feel the weight of what life is without you. So watch carefully what happens, not just in their actions, but in yourself. You will see how strength grows in silence, how respect rises in distance, and how love is tested in absence. Silence is not emptiness, silence is not weakness, silence is not avoidance. Silence is a language, a form of expression that carries a weight no spoken word can ever hold. When you choose silence, you create an atmosphere that forces the other person to listen, not with their ears but with their heart. Words can be denied, twisted, or ignored, but silence cannot be escaped. It follows them everywhere, into their thoughts, into their quiet moments, into the spaces where your voice used to echo. When you stop explaining, they start questioning. When you stop defending, they start wondering. When you stop chasing, they start searching. That's the power of silence. It flips the script, it changes the energy. It turns the pursuer into the pursued. Because nothing unsettles a person more than the absence of attention they were certain would always be theirs. Every time you remain silent, you are sending a message that says, I don't need to shout to be heard, I don't need to beg to be valued, I don't need to argue to prove my worth. Silence strips away the noise, the excuses, the distractions, and leaves only the truth. And the truth is louder than any defense, any explanation, any word you could ever speak. Your silence becomes the mirror they are forced to look into. It reflects back their actions, their choices, their treatment of you. It doesn't protect their comfort, it challenges it. It doesn't ease their mind, it troubles it. Silence plants questions that grow into restlessness. It creates a hunger that no other distraction can satisfy. It leaves a gap that nothing else can fill. And in that gap, realization begins to bloom. Silence is not passive, it's active. It's a storm disguised as calm. It's thunder wrapped in stillness. It's a weapon that doesn't cut but scars deeper than any blade. And when you carry silence with confidence, when you let it wrap around you like armor, when you wear it not as punishment but as power, it becomes undeniable. It speaks in the spaces between moments. It lingers in the pauses they never noticed before. It echoes in the emptiness they never thought they would feel. And it keeps speaking louder, louder, louder. Absence is the teacher that presence could never be. When you are always available, always present, always answering, your value becomes ordinary. But the moment you step back, the moment you remove your presence, the world around that person shifts. Suddenly, what they once overlooked becomes all they can think about. What they once took for granted begins to shine brighter in memory than it ever did in reality. Absence creates space, and in that space, appreciation is born. It's human nature to underestimate what is constant. Water is ignored until thirst arrives. Light is unnoticed until darkness falls. Love is dismissed until silence replaces it. And so it is with you. Your absence becomes the thirst, the darkness, the silence. It transforms you from background noise into a missing melody, from something ordinary into something rare. When you are absent, they are forced to confront what life feels like without you. No voice, no warmth, no presence to lean on. Every moment without you becomes a reminder of every moment with you, and suddenly the smallest memories grow heavy with meaning. The laughter, the comfort, The presence that was once overlooked now becomes precious. Absence magnifies everything. It stretches the heart, it sharpens the mind, it stirs the emotions. Absence is not about running away, it's about allowing the other person to realize what your presence truly meant. It is the mirror that shows them the emptiness of their own neglect. It whispers, "This is what life looks like without me. This is the silence you chose. This is the distance you created." And in that whisper lies the lesson. Because absence is not nothing, it is everything. It is weight, it is presence in another form, it is a shadow that follows them when you are no longer there. And the longer the absence stretches, the louder its voice becomes, the heavier its impact grows, the deeper its value sinks in. And so absence keeps working, silently, powerfully, endlessly, reminding, echoing, proving that what was once ignored is now the very thing that cannot be forgotten. 7 days may seem short, but in silence time stretches. 7 days without a word, 7 days without a message, 7 days without your presence. It becomes a trial, not just for them, but for you as well. It is a test of patience, a test of strength, a test of truth. Because in 7 days, everything hidden begins to surface. Their habits are revealed, their priorities are exposed, their intentions are unmasked. If they reach out, it shows you were on their mind. If they remain silent, it shows you were never in their heart. 7 days strips away the illusions, the excuses, the pretty lies people hide behind. Because nobody can fake care for long. 7 days of silence reveals who was genuine and who was pretending. This test is not about punishing them. It's about protecting yourself. It's about seeing reality clearly without the fog of constant communication. It's about stepping back and letting truth walk forward on its own. Because when you give space, you also give time, and time has a way of separating what is real from what is temporary. 7 days of ignoring creates pressure. It makes them restless, it makes them question, it makes them reconsider. What once felt secure to them suddenly feels fragile. What they thought would always be there suddenly seems uncertain. That is the power of a week. It creates a shift in the balance, it creates awareness, it creates reflection. But this test is also about you. Can you hold your silence? Can you resist the urge to explain, to chase, to remind them of your presence? Can you trust that if they value you, they will show it? And if they don't, their silence will be the loudest answer. 7 days builds your discipline, sharpens your will, and strengthens your self-respect. It is a reminder that you are in control of your energy, that you decide who gets access to your peace, that you choose when to speak and when to remain silent. And so the test continues, not with noise, not with arguments, not with explanations, but with stillness. 7 days, 7 lessons, 7 chances for truth to appear. And as the hours pass, as the silence deepens, as the distance grows heavier, the test keeps unfolding, showing more and more, revealing more and more, proving more and more, never ending, always speaking, always testing, always teaching. Attention is the purest form of currency. Every word you give, every glance you offer, every moment you invest is a deposit of your energy. And when you give it freely, endlessly, without measure, it loses its value in the eyes of the one receiving it. But the moment you pull it back, the moment you withhold it, the moment you redirect it inward, its worth multiplies beyond measure. People live on attention more than they live on air. Some crave it like water, some need it like food, some build their pride upon it, some build their confidence through it. And when you are the one who feeds them, when you are the one who gives it constantly, they come to expect it, not respect it. They stop noticing the gift because it arrives too often, too easily, too unconditionally. But when you withdraw, when your attention vanishes, when your energy no longer flows toward them, the silence becomes deafening, the emptiness becomes unbearable, the absence becomes undeniable. Withholding attention is not cruelty, it is power. It is not punishment, It is protection. It is not about denying someone. It is about reminding them that your energy is sacred. It forces them to ask questions. Why is it gone? What changed? What did I lose? It forces them to reflect on every moment they ignored, every effort they dismissed, every act of care they overlooked. Your attention is like sunlight. Too much of it and it burns, too little of it and it chills. But just enough and it nurtures. And when you take it away, when you let darkness fall, they begin to notice the warmth they once stood in but never appreciated. They begin to realize that without your light, their world grows colder, duller, emptier. The power of withholding attention is not in making them weak. It is in making you strong. Because the moment you stop pouring all of yourself into them, you begin to pour into yourself. You rediscover your own light, your own value, your own energy. You begin to feel the strength that comes from self-focus, the clarity that comes from self-love, the peace that comes from self-control, and the longer you hold back, the more the balance shifts. They move from comfort to confusion, from arrogance to awareness, from neglect to longing. They begin to see what they never saw before. They begin to feel what they never felt before. They begin to chase what they once ignored. And so your silence keeps speaking, your absence keeps echoing, your attention withheld keeps reminding, and the power keeps growing, rising, expanding, never ending, never fading, always speaking, always proving. Strength is not found in loudness, not in shouting, not in forcing someone. Understand your worth. True strength is silent, calm, steady. It lives in self-control. The ability to hold back when every part of you wants to react. The ability to stay composed when emotions try to spill over. The ability to remain silent when anger begs you to speak. That is power greater than any outburst, greater than any display of pride, greater than any fight for attention. Self-control is the shield that protects your dignity. It says, I will not be moved by your silence. I will not be broken by your games. I will not lose myself chasing what refuses to see me. Because losing control is easy. Anyone can yell, anyone can beg, anyone can chase. But it takes mastery to pause, to hold your ground, to stay unmoved in the storm. That is the kind of strength that cannot be taken away, the kind of strength that earns respect even in absence. When you practice self-control, you shift the power back to yourself. You decide when to speak and when to remain quiet. You decide where your energy flows and where it is cut off. You decide who receives your attention and who no longer deserves it. This discipline creates freedom. It frees you from being a slave to emotions. It frees you from reacting to every action. It frees you from depending on anyone else for validation. And what happens when you display such strength? The one who once thought you would break begins to notice that you do not bend. The one who thought you would chase begins to realize you do not move. The one who thought they held control begins to see the truth. You were always in control because you mastered yourself. And there is no greater strength than mastery over self. Self-control is not silence for weakness. It is silence for wisdom. It is not withholding for pride. It is withholding for peace. It is not ignoring to hurt. It is ignoring to heal. It is strength dressed in patience. It is power wrapped in stillness. It is fire controlled so it warms instead of burns. And the longer you hold it, the brighter you glow, the stronger you stand, the louder your silence becomes. Because the truth is this, the one who controls themselves controls the outcome. The one who controls their emotions controls the direction. The one who controls their energy controls the balance. And so your self-control keeps building, keeps rising, keeps speaking, without words, without noise, without end. It becomes endless strength, endless discipline, endless power flowing through your silence, never stopping, never fading, never ending. Presence is often overlooked because it is constant. When you are always there, always answering, always giving, your presence blends into the background like air necessary but unnoticed, vital but invisible, but silence. Silence is different. Silence is felt. Silence is heavy. Silence cannot be ignored. People notice silence more than presence because it creates contrast, because it interrupts the pattern, because it forces them to feel what they never paid attention to before. When you are present, they assume you will always be there. When you are silent, they begin to wonder. They notice the empty space where your words used to be, the unanswered messages, the absence of your laughter, the missing warmth of your energy. Suddenly, the quiet becomes louder than the conversations ever were. What was once taken for granted now becomes a question, a mystery, an ache they cannot escape. Silence has a way of magnifying everything. It turns ordinary moments into echoes. It turns casual absence into weight. It turns neglect into realization. When you stop speaking, they start hearing. When you stop reaching out, they start reaching inward. When you stop filling the space, they are left alone with their own thoughts. And those thoughts are never kind when guilt and regret begin to rise. It's not your words they remember in your silence. It's your absence. It's not your arguments they hear. It's the missing comfort of your presence. Silence becomes a mirror, and in that mirror, they see what life looks like without you. And the truth is, that vision unsettles them more than any speech, more than any plea, more than any explanation ever could. The beauty of silence is that it demands nothing yet teaches everything. It doesn't chase, it doesn't beg, it doesn't force. It simply exists, and in its stillness it becomes louder than thunder. And the longer the silence lingers, the more restless they become. They notice it in the quiet hours of the night, in the moments when distractions fade, in the spaces where your voice used to fill the void. Because presence is expected, but silence is questioned. Presence is ordinary, but silence is extraordinary. Presence is forgotten, but silence is unforgettable. And so your silence keeps expanding, keeps echoing, keeps carving itself into their awareness. Speaking without words, teaching without effort, reminding without sound. Never ending, never fading, never silenced. Respect does not flourish in constant availability. When you are always present, always answering, always offering yourself without pause, people forget the value of your presence. They forget the weight of your time, the rarity of your attention, the worth of your energy. But the moment you step back, the moment you create space, the moment you allow distance, respect begins to grow like a seed planted in silence. Distance forces recognition. It reminds them that your presence was not owed, it was a gift. It shows them that access to you is not a right, but a privilege. And when you pull back, when you withdraw your constant giving, when you stop showing up without hesitation, they finally see that you are not endless, you are not replaceable, you are not to be treated as ordinary. Respect grows in distance because absence magnifies importance. The further you step back, the clearer your outline becomes in their memory. The more you withhold, the more they realize what they once received. The silence sharpens their awareness. The space deepens their appreciation. The distance forces them to reconsider how they treated what they thought would never leave. And respect is not built through noise, not built through demands, not built through begging for it. Respect is built in the discipline of your silence, in the boundaries of your distance, in the strength of your withdrawal. It teaches without words, it commands without force, it shapes without effort. It simply grows silently, invisibly, but undeniably. The longer the distance holds, the stronger the respect becomes. At first, they may resist it, they may dismiss it, they may try to ignore it, but time always teaches. Slowly, the realization sinks in. Your patience, your strength, your absence, your silence. All of it creates a weight that cannot be denied, and in that weight, respect rises. Because distance does not weaken bonds that are real, it strengthens them. Distance does not destroy value, it reveals it. Distance does not erase love, it tests it. And so your silence continues, your distance deepens, your presence transforms into a force that commands attention without asking, that demands respect without speaking, that grows larger and larger with every passing moment, never ending, never fading, always rising, always expanding, always teaching that respect grows where space is given, where silence is kept, where distance becomes the soil for honor to bloom endlessly. Love is easy when presence is constant, when words are exchanged daily, when reassurance flows without interruption. But the real test of love is not in closeness. It is in absence. Because absence strips away the comfort of routine, absence removes the safety net of constant communication. Absence silences the noise and leaves only truth. If the love is real, absence does not weaken it, it strengthens it. If the love is pure, absence does not erase it, it deepens it. If the love is honest, absence does not destroy it, it proves it. But if love was shallow, if it was built only on convenience, if it lived only in routine, absence will reveal its fragility, absence will show its emptiness, absence will expose its illusion. Absence is the great revealer. In the quiet hours when the phone does not ring, in the days when the messages do not come, in the moments when the comfort of your presence is no longer their feelings are tested, do they still think of you? Do they still long for you? Do they still value what they cannot see, cannot touch, cannot hear? Or do they forget, move on, replace you with distraction? That is why absence is powerful. It separates the temporary from the eternal. It shows who loved your presence and who loved your soul. It shows who needed you for convenience and who valued you for essence. Because absence does not lie, it amplifies. It amplifies longing if love is true. It amplifies indifference if love was fake. And love that survives absence becomes unshakable. Because it has endured silence, it has endured distance, it has endured the space where doubt could have grown, but instead loyalty grew stronger. Love that passes the test of absence is not ordinary. It is rare, it is unbreakable, it is eternal. But love that fails in absence, that is not loss, it is revelation. It is the truth setting you free. It is clarity showing you where loyalty never existed. It is distance saving you from holding on to something that was never real. Absence may hurt, but it heals because it filters. It filters the shallow from the deep, the temporary from the lasting, the fake from the genuine. And so the test continues, day by day, hour by hour, silence pressing against the heart, distance pressing against the mind, absence pressing against the soul. If love is true, it will rise. If it is false, it will fade. And the lesson will keep repeating, the truth will keep revealing, the test will keep unfolding endlessly, infinitely, forever reminding that love is always tested, not in presence, but in absence, never ending, always proving, always echoing without end. Ignoring is not cruelty, it is clarity. When you ignore someone, you remove the stage, you cut the spotlight, you take away the comfort of constant attention. And in that silence, in that absence, in that deliberate withdrawal, truth appears. Because ignoring strips away the masked people, where when they know they are being watched. It removes the performance, it silences the act, it forces raw intention to step forward. When you stop giving attention, you discover what was hidden beneath their words. If they cared, they will reach out. If they valued you, they will notice. If they respected you, they will act. But if they were only there for convenience, their silence will betray them. If they were only there for comfort, their absence will reveal them. If they were only there because of what you gave, then once you stop giving, they will stop staying. Ignoring is the test that exposes the truth. It asks silently, were you here for me, or were you here for what I could offer? Were you here for my heart or for my presence? Did you value me, or did you only value my attention? And the answers reveal themselves without a word. Because those who are real cannot endure silence without breaking it, and those who are fake cannot endure silence without disappearing in it. The beauty of ignoring is that it requires no effort. It is your stillness that does the work. It is your withdrawal that shakes the ground. It is your silence that forces the mask to fall. And as days pass, the truth grows louder, their actions, or lack of them, become the confession they never spoke. Their distance becomes the answer you were searching for. Their reaction becomes the proof you needed. Ignoring is not about punishment. It is about perspective. It clears the noise, it filters the lies, it sharpens the vision. It allows you to see who runs toward you when there is no reward, who stays when there is no benefit, who remembers you when there is no reminder. That is the power of ignoring. It does not chase, it does not beg, it does not demand. It simply waits, and in the waiting, truth appears, and the longer you hold your silence, the clearer the intentions become. The pretenders vanish, the genuine ones remain. The careless drift away, the committed move closer. The selfish grow distant, the loyal grow louder. And so your silence continues to reveal, your ignoring continues to expose, your absence continues to separate what is real from what is false, endlessly, infinitely, without end, always teaching, always proving, always echoing the truth that ignoring is not cruelty but clarity, not weakness but wisdom, not loss but revelation, never ending, always revealing, always exposing. Every word you speak, every thought you invest, every emotion you pour into another person is energy leaving you. And when that energy is not respected, not reciprocated, not valued, you begin to feel drained, empty, exhausted. But the moment you stop giving it away freely, the moment you reclaim it, the moment you let silence protect it, you begin to feel something powerful, your energy returning to you. Energy is life. It fuels your thoughts, it shapes your emotions, it determines your strength. And too often, we waste it on people who do not deserve it, on situations that do not serve us, on battles that were never worth fighting. But when you step back, when you go silent, when you refuse to chase, all that energy that once flowed outward begins to flow inward. You start to feel lighter, stronger, freer. When your energy returns, clarity returns with it. You begin to see yourself not as someone waiting for attention, but as someone filled with their own light. You begin to recognize that your worth was never in their recognition. Your value was never in their response. Your strength was never in their presence. It was always within you, only scattered, only misplaced, only drained by giving it away too easily. With every day of silence, with every moment you withhold your reaction, with every time you resist the urge to explain, you conserve energy. That conserved energy builds into focus. That focus builds into strength. That strength builds into peace. And suddenly you are no longer running after them. You are walking toward yourself. You are no longer chasing their validation. You are discovering your own. You are no longer feeding their ego. You are feeding your soul, and here lies the beauty. When your energy returns to you, they begin to feel its absence. They notice the silence where attention once overflowed. They notice the gap where presence once surrounded them. They notice the void where your light once shined on them without pause. And in that void, they begin to realize what they lost. Energy never disappears. It only shifts. And when it shifts back to you, you transform. Your silence becomes strength, your absence becomes power, your stillness becomes peace. You begin to rise, to glow, to grow, and as you rise, the balance changes. As you glow, the weight shifts. As you grow, the truth becomes undeniable. Because when energy returns to you, you no longer beg, you no longer chase, you no longer crumble. You stand taller, you shine brighter, you move freer. And the cycle continues. Your energy keeps filling you, your silence keeps strengthening you, your peace keeps expanding within you endlessly, infinitely, never stopping, never fading, never ending. Power in relationships, in connections, in human interaction is rarely spoken about, yet it is always there, moving quietly beneath the surface. At first, it may seem like they hold it. The one who ignores, the one who withholds, the one who takes your presence for granted. They appear strong because they act indifferent. They appear in control because they do not chase. They appear untouchable because you keep giving. But the moment you stop, the moment you withdraw, the moment you choose silence, the balance begins to shift in ways they never expected. This shift is not loud, it is not dramatic, it is not immediate. It is subtle, steady, unshakable. It begins with confusion. They wonder why your voice is missing, why your presence feels distant, why your energy no longer circles around them. Then it grows into unease. They feel the absence like a shadow, like a weight pressing against them, like a question they cannot answer. Soon it becomes restlessness. They check for you, they search for you. They replay your last words in their mind. And without realizing it, they have moved from control to uncertainty, from arrogance to reflection, from comfort to discomfort. That is the unexpected power shift. Because power has never been about who speaks the loudest. It has always been about who needs the least. And when you show through silence that you do not need to chase, that you do not need to explain, that you do not need to beg, you take back the power they thought they held. You remind them that attention was not their right, it was your gift. Presence was not guaranteed, it was your choice. Access to your energy was not endless, it was limited. And suddenly, they begin to see you differently. Not as someone who could be taken for granted, but as someone who must be valued. Not as someone who will always be there, but as someone who can choose to walk away. Not as someone desperate for attention, but as someone powerful in silence. The shift has happened, and they cannot deny it, cannot escape it, cannot undo it. What makes this power shift so unexpected is that it does not require confrontation. It does not require threats. It does not require anger. It happens naturally, invisibly, simply because you chose not to give what they thought they owned. And the longer you hold this silence, the heavier the shift becomes, until it is undeniable, until it consumes their thoughts, until it changes the way they look at you forever. Because silence is not weakness, it is strategy. Distance is not loss, it is leverage. Withholding attention is not defeat, it is the turning point. And once the shift occurs, once they feel the weight of what they lost, once they recognize the strength of your absence, the balance is never the same again. The power has moved, the energy has changed, the truth has been revealed. And it keeps growing, keeps spreading, keeps echoing endlessly, infinitely, unshakably, never stopping, never fading, never ending. Silence is not empty, it is a mirror. When you go quiet, when you withhold words, when you stop explaining, you force the other person to sit with themselves. And in that stillness, in that space where your voice used to fill the air, they begin to hear their own thoughts louder than ever before. Your silence becomes the reflection they cannot escape, the reflection that follows them in every moment they thought they would forget you, the reflection that reveals the truth they tried to bury, because words can distract, but silence exposes. When you no longer explain yourself, they are left with unanswered questions. When you no longer argue, they are left with echoes of their own actions. When you no longer chase, they are left with the memory of what they lost. And that memory does not fade, it repeats, it circles, it grows louder in the emptiness of your silence. They begin to wonder, why did it stop? Why are they so calm? Why is there no reaction? And the more they wonder, the more they reflect. They replay their choices, their mistakes, their neglect, and in that process they feel what you once felt. Your silence holds up a mirror, and in that mirror they finally see themselves, not as they imagined, but as they truly were. Every unkind word, every careless action, every moment they dismissed your presence comes back to them, replayed in the quiet, replayed in the stillness, replayed in the shadow your absence casts. Silence creates space, and in that space grows realization. They see the difference between what they thought was unshakable and what they now feel slipping away. They see the contrast between the comfort of your attention and the discomfort of its absence. They see the weight of their own choices, reflected back at them in the mirror of your restraint. And the longer the silence stretches, the sharper the reflection becomes. At first, they may ignore it, try to distract themselves, try to convince themselves they don't care. But silence has patience. Silence waits. Silence whispers louder and louder until the truth cannot be denied. Their reflection grows heavier, their guilt grows stronger, their regret grows deeper, and they begin to realize that your silence was never emptiness. It was everything. It was the truth they never wanted to face, the lesson they never wanted to learn, the mirror they never wanted to look into. And so they reflect endlessly, constantly, unwillingly, because silence does not release them. It holds them. It follows them into their nights, it lingers in their thoughts, it presses against their soul. And as long as you remain silent, the reflection continues, the questions deepen, the truth grows, never ending, never softening, never fading. Your silence becomes their teacher, their mirror, their reminder, and it keeps teaching, keeps reflecting, keeps echoing without end. Human nature is drawn to the unknown. What is revealed too often loses its magic. What is given too easily loses its value. What is always available loses its charm. But when you create mystery, when you pull back, when you go silent, when you stop revealing every thought, every move, every feeling, you become a puzzle the mind cannot resist. Mystery is the spark that ignites curiosity, and curiosity is the seed of attraction. When you are predictable, they stop wondering. When you are always there, they stop questioning. When you are constantly giving, they stop valuing. But the moment you shift, the moment you go silent, the moment you stop feeding their certainty, you awaken their imagination. They begin to ask themselves, what are they thinking? Why aren't they reaching out? Where did their energy go? Who are they without me? And those questions linger, those questions repeat. Those questions grow louder with every passing day of silence. Mystery unsettles comfort. It removes the illusion of control. It takes what they thought they knew and turns it into uncertainty. And in uncertainty, attraction grows. Because the mind is restless when it does not have answers, and the heart is stirred when it feels something slipping away. Your silence becomes a riddle, your absence becomes a story, your distance becomes a question they cannot stop replaying. The less you reveal, the more they want to know. The quieter you become, the louder their curiosity grows. The more you hold back, the more they lean forward. Mystery pulls them in, not because you are doing something to catch their attention, but because you are doing nothing. And that nothing becomes everything. Attraction does not survive on what is obvious, it thrives on what is hidden. And by stepping back, by holding silence, by creating space, you wrap yourself in an aura that cannot be ignored. They begin to notice your unpredictability. They begin to crave your presence. They begin to search for what you are no longer giving freely. And in that search, attraction deepens. Because mystery is not about playing games. It is about remembering that not all of you should be given away. It is about protecting your essence, about holding your depth close, about reminding others that your presence is not to be consumed like an open book, but to be discovered page by page. And as long as you remain disciplined in silence, as long as you hold your mystery with confidence, the attraction never fades. It grows, it intensifies, it expands without limits. Mystery is the fire that keeps burning in absence, the pull that grows stronger in distance, the force that keeps them circling back, searching, questioning, longing. And as time passes, the mystery only deepens, the attraction only strengthens, the curiosity only sharpens. Never ending, never softening, never fading, always drawing them in, always pulling them closer, always igniting the fire of interest that silence fuels endlessly, infinitely, without end. Energy is life. It is the most valuable currency you have, more precious than time, more powerful than money, more rare than attention. Your energy is your presence, your focus, your love, your strength. And yet, too often, we give it away carelessly. to people who do not value it, to situations that drain it, to connections that do not deserve it. But here is the truth: not everyone deserves your energy. Some will take without giving, some will drain without restoring, some will consume your presence as if it were endless, never realizing the cost you pay in silence. And the more you pour into the wrong people, the emptier you become for yourself. That is why silence is protection. That is why withdrawal is wisdom. That is why stepping back is survival. Because by pulling away, you reclaim what is yours, you guard what is sacred, you protect what is priceless, your energy. Not everyone is worthy of the fire inside you. Not everyone is capable of holding the weight of your presence. Not everyone is prepared to respect the depth of your soul. And when you continue to give to those who only take, you teach them that your energy is cheap, that your time is disposable, that your worth can be ignored. But the moment you choose silence, the moment you go still, the moment you say nothing but withhold everything, they learn that access to you is not guaranteed. And in that moment, something powerful happens. Your energy returns to you. You begin to feel stronger, lighter, freer. You stop seeking validation from those who never valued you, and you start discovering the power that was always inside you. Your silence is not rejection, it is selection. It is you choosing who gets to share your presence and who no longer qualifies. Not everyone deserves your energy, because your energy is sacred. It builds worlds, it lifts spirits, it heals wounds, it inspires hearts. To waste it on someone careless is to dim the light that was meant to shine. To pour it into someone unworthy is to starve yourself of the very strength you need. To give endlessly to those who do not appreciate is to betray yourself. And the more you hold back, the more you realize how precious you truly are. You notice how peace replaces chaos when you stop feeding what drains you. You notice how strength returns when you stop giving to what disrespects you. You notice how joy grows when you stop attaching to what was never meant for you. Not everyone deserves your energy, and that is not cruelty, it is clarity. It is not pride, it is protection. It is not punishment, it is wisdom. And as long as you honor that truth, as long as you stand firm in silence, as long as you hold your energy close, you will never again feel powerless, never again feel drained, never again feel small. You will rise higher, shine brighter, move freer, and the lesson will keep expanding, your silence will keep teaching, your strength will keep growing, endlessly, infinitely, never stopping, never fading, never ending. Words can be argued, twisted, dismissed. Words can be denied, ignored, forgotten. But silence cannot be denied, cannot be twisted, cannot be forgotten. Silence is pure. Silence is heavy. Silence is undeniable truth spoken without a sound. It does not ask permission, it does not beg to be heard, it does not fight for attention. And yet it demands more attention than anything you could ever say. Silence is the pause that makes the world lean closer. It is the emptiness that echoes louder than the noise. It is the stillness that shakes a heart more than shouting ever could. When you go silent, you shift the power of communication. You stop explaining, you stop defending, you stop proving yourself. And in that absence, your silence becomes the loudest statement of all. They begin to notice. They feel the weight of what is missing. They hear the echo of what is unsaid. They sense the power of what you are withholding. Silence makes them reflect on their actions, their choices, their treatment of you. It forces them to fill in the blanks, to answer questions they never wanted to ask, to face truths they never wanted to see. And in that process, your silence speaks. It speaks of strength, of dignity, of boundaries, of self-respect. Silence says, I don't need to argue for my worth. I don't need to prove my value. I don't need to beg for space in your life. Silence says, I am stronger than your games, greater than your neglect, deeper than your dismissal. Silence says, you cannot shake me, you cannot break me, you cannot control me. And all of this is heard without a single word spoken. The louder the world gets, the more powerful silence becomes, because while noise fades, silence lingers. While words are forgotten, silence is remembered. While arguments dissolve, silence leaves a permanent mark. And the longer you hold your silence, the louder it grows, until it becomes impossible to ignore, impossible to escape, impossible to deny. And here lies the deepest truth: silence is not emptiness, it is fullness. It is not weakness, it is power, it is not retreat. It is command, it is the language of strength, the voice of dignity, the sound of peace. And when you master it, you no longer need to raise your voice, you no longer need to explain your side, you no longer need to convince anyone of anything, because your silence says it all. And so your silence continues, growing, echoing, teaching, shaking, healing. It speaks louder than words today. It speaks louder than words tomorrow. It speaks louder than words forever. It keeps expanding, it keeps flowing. It keeps commanding without end, without pause, without weakness. Endlessly, infinitely, forever speaking in a language that no one can ignore. Forever proving that silence will always speak louder than words, never ending, never fading, never silence. And so, in the silence of 7 days, a truth begins to unfold. You do not chase, you do not beg, you do not explain. You simply step back and let the silence do what words could never achieve. Because silence reveals intentions, silence commands respect. Silence shifts the balance, silence tests love, silence protects energy, and silence speaks louder than anything you could ever say. Those who are real will feel your absence and move closer. Those who are false will fade away and expose themselves. And in that process you rise, not because you shouted, not because you forced, not because you demanded, but because you held your power in stillness. So remember this: ignoring for a moment is reaction, but ignoring with purpose is transformation. In 7 days of silence, you do not lose. You discover. You do not fall, you rise. You do not weaken. You grow unshakable. Because in the end, silence is not emptiness. It is strength. And when you master silence, you no longer need to prove anything to anyone. Your presence, your absence, your quiet discipline, it says it all.